just like that, we are back after something like 9 months, I guess. I don't know. I am not dead. I am kind of gonna try to get back into making more videos. The ones I had been doing were definitely more like an archival type thing, and the ones that I have planned in that style, I still need a couple records to complete the whole story that I want to go through, and it just takes forever to edit and make the intros and all that stuff. So I think going forward, I'm just gonna try to like make you know little videos with no real aim, or just like a couple random records I want to talk about. So I'll try to do more of that this year, I think. And what better way to start doing that than with the punk vinyl tag? So this video is actually going to be two of them put together because there's like 6,000 different vinyl tags that are floating around. So maybe I'll do another one, but this one's going to be a mashup between the punk vinyl tag and the 7-inch vinyl tag. So it's like two in one. Maybe I'll do another two of the vinyl tags I liked. I know there's a bunch of people complaining about how vinyl tag is now. I don't know. It's just, to me, it's just an excuse to show records. So I don't care. Also, I'm kind of on you know, the outskirts of this whole thing anyway, as it is. So it's like, what do I care? But I thought the punk vinyl tag questions were pretty good this year. So shout out to Tommy, who came up with these, I believe. So we'll just jump into it, I guess. The last punk record of 2025 that you bought. So this wasn't the last one I bought, but this was the last one to show up. So I don't know if that counts. To me, it counts. I actually bought a couple records. This is the complete studio recordings of Moderate Liquidation, Swedish hardcore punk. I ordered a bunch of stuff from the label. This came out on Puke and Vomit, but they had some trouble with some of their other releases, and they kind of got put on the back burner. So they didn't cancel the releases, but they pushed them way back. So all the people that had records and were waiting on them, they just shipped them what they actually had in stock. So this came like right before the year ended, and I'm pretty stoked about this actually, because I only had a lot of this stuff by this band, and this is really cool. It folds open with a full gatefold and pictures, and everything Puke and Vomit does is just loaded with, cool stuff like posters and all kinds of little knickknacks. I don't think that's it. Oh, there's another booklet in here. I mean, this is the kind of stuff, like when I get a reissue or a collection, like this is the kind of stuff that I want to see in there. Especially after all this time, there's so much stuff that's come to light over the years. It's kind of cool to put it all together. But previously, I think the only way you could get most of this stuff was on like bootleg LPs and stuff like that. So it's cool to have this like readily in press and available. And there was actually 3 7-inches that were put out by Havoc, but maybe that was the mid-2000s they put those out. And the problem with those was, it was a lot of the same songs that are on here, but the songs were mismatched to the covers. So you had to like buy all 3 of them, and then like the labels are screwed up. So you had to switch all the records out to get them in the right cover. It was a huge pain in the ass. And then, when you try to put it on, you're like, shit, I don't remember, because the labels are wrong. So, but yeah, so this was definitely cool to have finally. And this is one of my favorite Swedish hardcore punk bands of all time. So that is the first one. Number 2 is the first record listened to in 2020, I guess 2026. First record I listened to this year. I definitely don't remember the one last year. I actually don't remember the one this year either, but this was one of them. I don't know if this was maybe the end of the year, beginning of the year. I don't know, but this is what I'm going with. This is a compilation, Midwest hardcore punk compilation, Midwest US. I got this from my buddy over at Revolt Records, so shout out Revolt Records. This I actually had a copy of, but the one I had did not have this poster, so I finally got the one with this poster. I mean, this is like a lot of just essential stuff on here, you know. Toxic Reason, Zero Boys, I mean, just essential stuff. Articles of Faith, I think my favorite Articles of Faith song is on here. Buried Alive, yeah, I love that song. So this was cool to finally get one with the, insert. And the old copy of this I traded to get another record, which I need for one of these videos going forward, which will be sort of previewed by some of the other records on this list. So, yeah. Master tape, absolutely outstanding. There's a volume 2 of this that's super rare. I think it's a double LP, which I need to track down eventually. But okay. So number 3 is the most ferocious punk record, I guess, that I bought this year. I don't know if this is the most ferocious, but to me, it's definitely the most ferocious that this band ever did. And this is the Live and Loud Foreskins this is with Hodges singing. And in my opinion, Hodges is definitely the best singer of the Foreskins. This is just like, I mean, it's like leaping out of the speakers, you know? This is just so great. Everything he did with them, he was the original singer. And he never did the album. The first album was with the other guy, Panther, who, you know, definitely not as intense of a vocalist, but this is like the peak of their, you know, this is the peak lineup, you know, Gary, Steve, Tom, and John Jacobs on drums. Like, I don't think they ever were this good again. And this is them live in their prime, just right off the soundboard. I don't even know if it's a soundboard, honestly. I think it's probably just like a tape recorder. You know, it's Bridge House tapes. I don't know. But man, this is just, like, honestly, I probably put this on more than I put on any other Foreskins record. And it was cool to finally get a copy of this. This isn't one of all these Live and Louds. This is probably one of the rarer ones that you'll find. Okay, so the next one is the Dirtiest, Meanest, Drunkest record. I think this one fits that category. This is Vicious Rumors, The Sickest Man in Town. And this is definitely, this is on Link Records, 1987, I think, 88, 87, yeah. And, you know, they're naked on here, it's fine. You know, it's got a good photo collage. This is, these guys were super popular at the time, but you don't really hear that much about them anymore. Like, you don't really see people, you know, with shirts of this band or talk about this band for some reason. But these guys were really big at the time. Mid 80s. They were like I think they were the 100 Club house band. Like, they played at the 100 Club constantly, like opening for everybody. This is their second album. I still need the first album. This is a good one though. Definitely debaucherous. This is kind of like, I don't know, Mac Lads, like, you know, silly, obscene, but all in good fun. So yeah, that's what I'm going to choose for that one. Next one is a record from 1986, and this is probably my favorite record from 1986, and that is Condemned 84 Battle Scarred. I think this is one of the top skinhead records ever made, despite what some people may say about this band or complain about, whatever. I mean, this is like what Why by Discharge is to UK82, this is to Oi skinhead music. Like, this is just this is a mini album, same way as Why was. You know, the warfare on the cover. I mean, this is brutal music. It's not very fast. It's plotting. This is just like, it sounds like you're getting stomped out when you put this on. I mean, I love this record. And, you know, for all the people that complain, ironically, this was put out by Oi Records, which is Roddy Moreno's record label, and they thank him right here. Roddy Moreno, the man who has put words into action on and off stage. So, you know, a lot of the people that complain about this band are oppressed worship people. So you can thank him for this one if you got something to complain about. But to me, absolutely essential. One of the top skinhead records of all time, up there with the best of them. Okay, so next one is proto-punk or a post-punk record? I think I probably showed more proto-punk than post-punk, and to be honest with you, I'm not a huge post-punk guy. But I'll throw this one in there. Lords of the New Church. This I picked up recently. You know, I'm not super crazy about this record. This is just not my, like the last record is way more, like that's what I'm more into. This is cool. It sounds way cooler when you describe it to somebody though, because you're like, oh, this is the guy from Sham 69, and you know, Stiv Bators from Dead Boys. You're like, oh man, that's gotta be, and it's like, you know, like if you're looking for that, this is not this is not like that at all. You know, this is definitely a post-punk, you know, early goth record, I'd say, like the subculture, you know, just you could tell the aesthetic of this is like that minimalist, dark wave, you know, kind of thing. There's not even a picture of anyone on this. This is the American Press, I think. I found this for like $5 in an antique store, so that's really why I picked it up. And it's like mint too. It's cool, you know. I'm not like, it's just not my you know, cup of tea really, but for what this is, you know, it's an essential record, and you know, I'll put it on every now and then. It's cool. Okay, so the next question is the 26th record on the shelf, and I was kind of happy that this ended up being the 26th record on the shelf. This is Antipasti. This is like, you know, back when I was younger, this was like a staple UK82 record. Like everyone knew this record, everyone had this record, and now I feel like it's almost moved into obscurity. Along with, you know, like the UK subs, I kind of feel that way too. You know, these are bands that were super important in the early, or the, you know, the early 80s UK punk scene. Hugely influential. These guys are really, and UK subs are really ahead of the pack in a lot of ways. I think this might be like one of the first UK82 bands to get a full album out. But yeah, you know, now these kind of like regular bands are kind of like, people skip them and they just go to like the more obscure stuff, which I think is kind of stupid, you know. I think this stuff is essential. But yeah, I haven't listened to this in a while actually, so I guess, you know, I guess I'm kind of guilty too, but man, this entire album front to back is just outstanding. You know, this was on Rondelet 1981. Yeah, definitely a classic, but for whatever reason overlooked these days. Okay, so the next question is a set list or debris from a show. I don't think I have any set lists. I mean, when you have a girlfriend and you get a set list, like she gets it. It's just how it works, you know? So most of the set lists I got over the years, I went to girlfriends or, you know, stuff like that, and I don't really have any left. But one thing I used to do a lot at shows, and my one friend Carl, I don't know, sometimes he watches these, I don't know. Shout out to you, Carl, if you're out there watching this clip. He would always say at the end of a show, wait for the lights to come on and then go search for buttons. And that was like his thing, and he still does that. And I used to do that with him a lot. And hold on one second. So this is kind of like a little bit of a artifact of my own, but this is my old vest that I used to wear back in the day. And I mean, this thing is just freaking, I wore this everywhere. But yeah, this lived on me, and you can just tell this thing. I still have it. It's pretty dingy though. But I definitely remember getting this. You can see like at shows these buttons just fly off of these, but this Defiance button, this is their second album. I definitely remember finding that on the ground during one of our button foraging sessions after the lights all come on. And everyone's leaving. Going around the edge of the stage, just like, oh, button, you know, oh, pin, you know. Or sometimes you find other stuff like bullet belts or bondage belts or, you know, stuff like that. Usually people would come back looking for stuff like that. But little buttons, I mean, everyone's hammered trying to get out of there and head to the bar or whatever. You just head around. You know, I tried to get this out here to show it, and it's completely rusted on. So I had to bring the whole thing out. I think I have a couple more buttons I found like this, but Yeah, you could just tell. Like, look at the one that was under my arm. Like the studs are just. Yeah, this thing is freaking dingy. But there we go. That's a bit of my history there. Okay. Next question. A punk record with 5 songs. Okay, so this one it was actually funny. I was just listening to this and I realized, holy crap, this record has 5 songs on it. This is perfect. This is VAC Netterstadt. I don't know how to say this. This is a German oi punk record with a very new wave looking cover. But this is really good, like, you know, this is kind of like Bose Uncles, I'd say. Yeah, there they are there. But this is a, looks like there's 6 songs, but there's actually 5 songs. I don't know which, I think, maybe there's 6 songs. No, I screwed up. Oh well. Oh no, it is 5 songs. Oh, this last song, this is 1 song here. I'm not going to try to say that for anyone from Germany who's going to be offended that I butcher their language, but yeah, the old German boot boy music. This is good stuff. They actually have another 12-inch that's just like this, and I think that's all they ever did was 2 records, but not expensive. Definitely not one you see every day, but highly recommended by me. Okay, so the next one is a lathe cut or flexi disc. I have not many of these, so it is not this record. I just keep it in here. But this is the Pinto Spiky Jacket LP, this or mini album, I guess. This is actually the rare one on black. Most of them are pink, but I keep it in here. And this is kind of a really weird one. This is actually a postcard, and I think this is Sad Boys. I think it's a split with, yeah, Sad. It has a Sad Boys song and a Who Killed Spiky Jacket song, Beer Stormtrooper, which is actually like a parody of a Last Resort song, Stormtroopers and Stay Pressed. Yeah, it's like a parody of that. So yeah, this is pretty cool. And actually, mine doesn't have any. A lot of them have, like, they insisted on mailing these out as actual postcards if you bought one. I remember. I don't know what year this was from, but I bought 2 of these, and the other one that was on top of this, like, they taped it up and actually wrote everything in here and put the stamp on it as if it was a postcard. So, yeah. But yeah, Spiky Jacket, very silly band, but definitely nailed what they were going for. And they still play occasionally and destroy wherever they're playing, and it's great fun to watch. So yeah, that's what I picked for that. Okay, so the next one is a record from your local punk scene. I don't have what I would consider a local punk scene. We have a very big hardcore scene, which, I mean, I have less than zero interest. I am actually openly hostile towards what is called hardcore now. I'm not going to name any bands or people of that persuasion because, you know, they're free to do whatever they want. But just me, I have zero interest in it. If the term hardcore is detached from punk, I have zero interest. Like, once hardcore punk became hardcore, I'm gone. You know, it's basically, to me, it's Limp Bizkit. You know, you might as well be listening to Limp Bizkit. It's a bunch of, like, dudes in sweatpants and hoodies, you know, swinging around and, you know, fucking brotherhood, bro. Yeah, dude, fucking loyalty. Like, all right. And it's just, I hate it. I hate all of it. And it's huge. And it's always been huge in this area. So, you know, I have zero interest in that. The punk scene here was never really anything to write home about. I mean, some of my friends had bands. You know, I had bands that didn't go anywhere. And the closest area to me would probably, I guess, would be Philadelphia. And the stuff I relate to is all very much old music. It's not much new anything. So we'll go with an old Philly band. We got Pure Hell. And this is like the antidote to the Yo Dog Homie hardcore of today that has pretty much taken over music, like underground music. But this is the real deal. 77 Punk from Philadelphia. This, I think, was never released back in the day. I think they only did a 7-inch back then. And this is another Puke and Vomit. This has been reissued a couple times, but yeah, this is just really great. Really great band. Yeah, that was their 7-inch, I think. I think that was the only thing they put out originally. But yeah, Pure Hell. Just a great band. This is much more rockin', you know, it's actually music. It's not just talking about how tough you are. Yo, getting down. This is punk. This isn't even hardcore punk. Love this record. Yeah, okay, so moving on. Bootleg punk record. I have so many bootlegs. I will put one that came out this year that I was initially stoked on and has kind of disappointed me. This is the Skin Deep 12-inch that includes their 1985 7-inch, which is by most people's opinion the rarest Oi record that ever come out. I actually have the original. I'm working on another video of just 80s British, 80s UK, so England, Scotland, Wales, skinhead records. I think that's definitely a video that's going to come out in the future, so I'm going to go over a lot of that more in detail. But this came out this year. This is their demo on one side and then their EP on the other side. And it just kind of, I don't know, kind of sucks. It's numbered. There's not that many of them. How many are there? You know, there's like 500. So number 203. Yeah, I think this is probably one of the rarest of that time. But there's really, they really just half-assed this release. I mean, there's so much more. And then the poster's just the cover. You know, I really wish that they tracked down some of the original members. And I mean, these are the same pictures that you see all over the internet. It's cool to have everything on one record, but I was really hoping for more like detailed, you know, like that Moderate Liquidation record, like lyrics and unseen pictures, which I know is hard to find, but it is cool to have everything on here. So you get the 7-inch, and then the rest of it's the demo. So this one's on a red vinyl, and this label did a Betrayed collection also, which was an unofficial release, which I think the Betrayed one was actually much better. It was a lot more information and stuff in that. But yeah, honestly, I would have liked to see the original cover as a cover rather than this that someone came up with, which is, I guess, cool, but I don't know. I always prefer the original cover if possible. Okay, so the next question is someone we lost in 2025. We lost a lot of people in 2025. Obviously from, Colin from Conflict, that was a big one. And I saw some other people, they mentioned Colin, and that's who I was going to go with. And then it occurred to me that I haven't seen anyone talk about Albaril yet, so that's who I'm going to go with. This is the reissue that came out, I think, in 2023 this came out. But this is their first album, and yeah, it's pretty much an exact copy of the original press. I got the regular black one. The insert's copied. Came with the poster, some stickers and stuff. So yeah, man, this is one of my favorite American hardcore records. Hardcore punk, sorry, see? Gotta have punk on the end of it, but this is just a seminal record in that era, and really prohibitively expensive, especially for me, because I focus on mainly the UK stuff, so I'm going to spend a lot of money. It's going to be on like a UK 2 or an Oi record. That's like, what I spend big bucks on. This stuff it's really nice to finally have an actual official reissue, because from 1982 to 2023 you can only get this as a bootleg. There was a bunch of different bootlegs which kind of sucked, and it's cool to have this original one. And then, unfortunately, we lost Al. I think it was April or May of this year. He passed away. So, yeah, unfortunately, rest in peace, Al. But I don't think you could ask much more than to have a legacy like this, and the other records. I even like their later metal era stuff, which is like, no, this obviously is my favorite, but I don't think it's that as bad as people give it credit for. But okay, so moving on, a song to start a revolution to. Well, I have kind of mixed opinions on this. I'm gonna go with the song Hypocrite by Newtown Neurotics. And it was on their first 7-inch and then they re-recorded it later. This is a singles collection that is done by Sealed Records. And this is one of those amazing collections that comes with this booklet that's just loaded with, this is the kind of stuff that I just geek out over. You put this on and then you can sit there and just peruse through this whole thing and look at all these little details. There's show flyers, there's everything you could possibly want in here. So this is really cool. And yep, it's got the lyrics too. I mean, it's everything you could possibly want. And the song Hypocrite, I think, is super relevant because, you know, I think there's a lot of people out there who they talk a big game about how they want a revolution and they want to, you know, change this and change that. And then at the end of the day, you know, when they win the day and they're in charge, they kind of just end up being exactly the same way as the people that they took out. And I think that's part of the human condition. And I'm not sure you should have a song that makes you want to start a revolution. I mean, I think if your revolution is based on something that small, I don't think it's very well thought out. And that's what the song Hypocrite is about. It's about people who, you know, the line in the song is, you never exercise your freedom of choice, you just agree with the loudest voice. And I think that is so relevant, you know, especially considering all the political turmoil that we have going on now. I mean, you know, it's just erupting with people that want a revolution, and they're going, you know, off the wall about stuff that's been going on for 20, 30 years, you know? And I think that, you know, if you didn't start a revolution then, but now you're kind of jumping on the bandwagon now that it's gaining popularity, you know? I don't know. I question your motives, you know? And that's what that song's about, Hypocrite. So, I don't know if that answers the question. I don't really care, but that's as political as I want to get on this video. Maybe that was even too much, but yeah, Newtown Neurotics, one of my favorite bands. And yeah. And I should also mention, I want to interject here, this was put out by Sealed Records, and Sealed Records does outstanding stuff. And I think my favorite release of 2025 actually wasn't a record at all. It was put out by Sealed Records, but it was this book that I got in this. I got right, I think, a couple days after Christmas this showed up. And this is Shot from Both Sides by Paul May, who was a fanzine guy and an amateur photographer back then in the UK 82 era. And this is just his, I mean, here's Discharge in 82, you know, it's just his personal Vice Squad. It's his personal photo archive that's been put into this painstakingly researched book. I mean, there's the Black Flag in their first UK appearance, I believe. I think that's the first show they ever played in England. Yeah, I mean, there's the Samples and the Parsons. I mean, this guy was everywhere. And this book is just like, there's Metallica in 84, and it's year by year. Faroukers. I mean, I've never seen any of these pictures before this book came out. And it goes year by year, and it's really interesting because, so what is this? In the beginning of each year, it goes over, I don't know if these are the records he bought or just like a list of records that he liked at the time, but I mean, it's a pretty great who's who of 80s UK and not, and, you know, non-UK punk records, but And then it's also got a list of zines. It's even got the issue, you know, the number and the bands that were included on it. This is just, and then it's all the gigs he went to. It has his gig diary here, which I guess is how he kind of organized all this stuff. And man, this book is incredible. And if you haven't heard of this, or, you know, oh, here we go, here's Potential Threat in 86. I mean, I can't say enough good things about this book. Definitely highly recommended, and by far my favorite release of 2025. So yeah, shot by both sides, Paul May, highly recommended. Sealed Records, and yeah, they've done a lot of good records. They did this. They've done a Partisans demo LP that also comes with a booklet like that. I think I talked about that before, but yeah, Sealed Records, everything they do is awesome, and I think they're already working on a volume 2 of that book. So okay, next question. Punk record with World War II imagery. I mean, that could be so many. I just pulled this one out off the top of my head. This is the Actives Kick It Down. This is their debut album. This is kind of cult, like a cult UK82 band from Scotland. Yeah, I mean, I love this record. It's actually funny in the book Birding Britain, they talk about how this record was mixed by a stoned hippie, and they describe the sound as sounding like you're listening to the record as your mom is vacuuming behind you, and it actually does kind of sound like that. I think it's a really funny way to describe it. But yeah, I mean, despite the production, I love this record. Definitely a rare one. But, to me, an essential, and like I said, it's a cult record. So the next one is a cliche-filled punk record, and this is kind of going to go into what my next couple videos are going to be out. And I went with this. I went with Funeral Dress, Party Political Bullshit. This is their third album or fourth album, maybe. I think fourth album. This is 1999 this came out, and I mean, can you get any more cliche than that? Look, photo collage, mohawks, spiky hair, you know, 40 or, you know, beers and just general debauchery. This is from 1999 on Punkcore Records. This is one of the labels I'm kind of working on a video of. This was this Punkcore and all these kind of bands, Funeral Dress, Casualties, Defiance, all that 90s street punk stuff was super influential to me as a kid, and also super cliche. And this was, if you were into this stuff, you were generally hated by most people that considered themselves into most of like the hippie, arty kind of people that wouldn't consider themselves punks, but also felt the need to tell you that you weren't punk because you looked like this and had studs and mohawks and shit like that. So I was really heavy to all this stuff, and it was a huge part of my introduction to music in general, because, you know, these kind of bands, they were all about the UK82 stuff. So once I sort of discovered this, that was much easier to find. I was looking at, like, grabbing these records and then looking down and looking like, you know, Special Duties, Exploited. You know, that was the kind of stuff that really jumped out at me, and it kind of made me realize, like, oh, these guys are into some other stuff, you know, GBH. This is a continuation of the British 82 kind of style and sound, and that's what really interested me and got me into music, and that's still what I love today. I mean, obviously I've expanded part of growing up, but yeah, definitely in the cliche category, and that's part of what to me is endearing about this whole kind of era. And I definitely am going to go into this with my next two videos are kind of planned to be based on Punkcore and Charged Records. And, you know, I think it's an era that's often maligned and is not really that well documented. So I kind of want to do something to give this kind of stuff like a place in an archival sense, you know, like, because you just don't see it. Most people are kind of embarrassed that they ever like this stuff. And to me, it's great, and they nailed what they were going for. and they really were students of subculture. The people that were making these kind of bands, and the people that were following these kind of bands in the late '90s, early 2000s. Like, you know, you go to a show back then, and people really took this stuff like seriously. You know, they'd be, oh, have you heard this band from '82? And you'd be like, no, I never heard them. Like, oh man, it's tough. Like, you gotta find this. And it was really like everyone was super stoked to share knowledge and share information about, you know, the old British '80s stuff. And I thought that was really cool, and I kind of missed that. So anyway, that was a lot to say about a stupid record. But yeah, still love all this stuff. Okay, so the next one this is an interesting question. A record to babysit houseplants. I don't have houseplants. I work a lot, and if I had houseplants, they'd probably die. But you know, I'd be more worried about houseplants growing and taking over the house, you know, because I work so much. So I think I would go, like, I wouldn't want them to grow that much. So I'd want something that would not kill the houseplants, but definitely like stunt their growth a little bit, so I wouldn't come home to like Jumanji or something. So I went with this band, Violent Uprising, and this is like the most abrasive, disorder-ish, Chaos UK-ish kind of punk ever. So I don't think a plant could grow around this kind of music. It's so. This is like, I don't know if noise punk is a real thing, but if it is, this is probably like the top of it. And then 4 songs. So yeah, I don't think a plant's gonna be able to grow if you just play these 4 songs over and over and over again. So that's what I'm gonna go. Keep the plants, you know, in check. Don't let them go out of control. And this is actually, this Demo Tapes Records, some of the guys that did this, I think, are involved in that Sealed Records. And this is another one of those like UK 82 bands that they only had a demo tape, and then they have this incredible document of this whole band in here. And it's like there's more popular bands that don't have a document like this about their history, you know? Like, these are straight up amazing. You know, it's even got the lyrics. Like, how do they remember the lyrics? They look like they're the original lyric things that they photocopied in there. You know, like, this is just really, really cool stuff, and a really, I mean, this band is, like I said, it is rough. This is noisy and awesome. So, yeah, this is definitely on the level of Disorder, Violent Uprising. It's just great. Love it. Oh, and this is actually, a single-sided record, and this is great because the B side of this, so there's all the songs are on this side, and then this side is completely blank, and it's great because I can use this side to set my tone on. So this record is actually super useful in more ways than one. Okay, so that is, we're getting close to the end here, so this isn't going to be too long. Should keep this under 35 minutes, but okay, so Violent Uprising. Okay, so the next question is, record to teach the machines how to make music. And I don't want to teach the machines how to make music, so I'm going to lead them in the wrong direction on purpose. So I think what I would play for the machines is that second Bad Religion album that everyone forgets about, that's like Rush. What is it called? Into the Unknown or something, which obviously I don't have a copy. So but I would feed them that, and I would feed them Discharge, Brave New World, and just send them down the complete wrong path. I don't have Discharge, Brave New World either because that record fucking sucks. And it's like sort of expensive. Like, I want to have it eventually to complete the Discharge catalog, but I'm not paying $30, $40 for it. That's like a $5 record in my mind. And this is the closest I have. I think there's Brave New World is at the end of this. This is like, the entire record is awesome, and then they had to just add these last 3 songs at the end. I mean, Price of Silence kind of sucks too, but it's better than these. I mean, by the time you get to Ignorance and Brave New World, man, we're not talking about, you know, this era Discharge. We're talking about this era Discharge, and this era is, I don't care what anybody says. Don't listen to anybody that tries to tell you that this is good. They're trying to just be cool. It sucks. We all know it sucks. Brave New World. No, thank you. This is Discharge. This is what you want. Other stuff, not so much. So yeah, we're gonna feed the machines a bunch of bullshit and try to get that in there. Yeah, we're gonna feed the machines a bunch of bullshit, and then we'll be off over here in secret with no Wi-Fi and analog everything. Okay, so this is sort of, well, I guess the last two questions I kind of put into one. So the next question is punk record to hand an alien to show why humans lost hope. And to me, religion is the number one reason why humans lost hope, and I would just show the aliens this and be like, hey man, this is what we did wrong. And this is The Blood, False Gestures for a Devious Public. And this is just an anti-religion tirade of a record and the band. Their whole existence of the band is basically to make fun of and point out the hypocrisy of most organized religions. And this cover is just great. You've got everyone. You've got the Muslims, you got the Jews, you got the Christians, and they're all just kind of milling about in this confusion. And you got JJ and the Cardinal from The Blood just sort of like, they know what's up and they're just milling around. And yeah, I think false gestures is such a great, just such a great term to describe most religious people. Like, it's all these gestures of being nice and caring, but it's all just for show. And you know, this kind of actually goes into the revolutionary talk I was going into earlier. It's a false gesture. You know, they want to be accepted and they want recognition, and they use these kind of religious or moral talking points to kind of get it. And I think that's kind of what the downfall of humanity is, because you can't just do nice things for people for the sake of doing nice things. You gotta have your phone out, you gotta film it, and then you gotta let everyone know that you're on the right side. Look at what I did, I was out there. All right, well, false gesture. That's what I say. And I think that this record is absolutely out. This is like one of the best UKDT records of all time, also. But yeah, it's got all the lyrics in here. Just great record, great bands. I saw them once, actually. It was okay. JJ passed away, the guitar player, who was really, I mean, he was the one who wrote all the music and everything. But yeah, great band. And also, this kind of goes into the last question. If you started a DIY record label, what would the name be? And I have thought about this before, and I would name it False Gestures. Because I think that is, like I said, it's just a very pertinent title. Okay, so that ends the punk vinyl tag. So now I'm going to tag on the 7-inch vinyl tag onto this, just because I don't feel like doing a whole nother video. It's also mostly 99.9% I answered with punk. I think there's two questions on punk. So the first question was, show a record that was a -- hit. And this was probably the hardest question, but I actually did find one. I didn't even know this. I had to start looking up, because most of the records I own most of the 7-inches I own, I should say, I only collect punk and some new wave of British heavy metal. I have like a very small section at the end that's like rock stuff and other kind of music that I just picked up either in passing off free stuff like that. But space is an issue with records, as many of you know, so I stick to my 7-inches are only punk and, like I said, a little bit of new wave of British heavy metal. But so a song that was a #1 hit. And apparently, Wigwam Bam was a #1 hit in Canada. So there you go. I think this is a Dutch pressing of this. You know, obviously, essential glam. And this definitely could be considered proto-punk. The Suite, just absolutely outstanding. Yeah, both of these tracks are great. And apparently that was a #1 hit. Okay, so the next one, show a record from when you were a teenager. And this kind of goes back to the street punk thing I was talking about earlier. I'm going to throw this one in there, Brutal Dildos. This was a street punk band from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I think this was 2006 this came out. 7 maybe? I don't know if it says on here. Yeah, recorded in 06. This probably came out 07. But yeah, this was kind of like, if you were like super into UKD2 stuff, I mean, unless you got the one-off a couple UK82 bands like One Way System or whatever that would come through. Like the closest you were gonna get was street punk, and it was bands like, you know, Brutal Dildos, Aggressics. This is like, you know, late 2000s, mid-late 2000s. This is the closest kind of stuff you were going to get. Brutal Dildos actually had a little more 77 to them than most. I'd still definitely consider it street punk or pogo, you know, pogo street punk, but they had a little more 77 sound to them than the other bands of this era. But yeah, this was definitely takes me back to being a teenager. You know, I would have been 17 when this came out, so this was yeah, it's my generation. You know, not the greatest stuff, but definitely holds a place in my heart. Okay, so the next show, a record from your favorite artist. I think my favorite band would have to be Blitz, I think. And I've showed so much Blitz on this channel already, but I figured I'd show this. This is like a weird Blitz record. This is the New Breed EP. All these songs are on the other, that weird 90s Blitz album. What the hell is the name of it? That's Second Empire, no, not Second Empire Justice. I forget, the one from the 90s, but all these songs were taken off this, and this is actually kind of rare. But some of these Blitz songs that are on this were written in the 80s and never recorded. So it's kind of cool to hear these songs come to the forefront. And this actually is an interesting lineup of Blitz. It's actually, this picture of them is with Vinny and Roger from Agnostic Front. And it is Nidge, Gary Bassnett, who was the original Attack vocalist, and that is, I think his name is Gary too, and he's the bass player from Blitzkrieg. So there's a lot of No Future 82 history on this record. The production's weird. I don't really know what they were going for. They were kind of going for like a, you know, like a new wavy kind of droney production, echoey vocals. You know, I kind of wish they just played it more straightforward. But it's still cool. I think the songs on this are good. It's definitely Blitz. It has that Blitz feel, all these songs that are on here. And honestly, I think these 4 songs are the best songs that were on the album. So it's kind of cool. And definitely not one you see every day. Obviously, it doesn't hold a candle to their 80s stuff, but I figured I'd just show one that I hadn't shown on here. Okay, so the next one, show record from 2025. This record I picked up. This is the Vaccine Last Survivor split 7-inch. Vaccine is a sort of like a UK82 type band from New York City. I've known Steve, the singer, for a long time. Yeah, he's always been a UK82 freak, you know, so that's definitely what this band sounds like. And Last Survivors are a Japanese band, also in that same style, and they do, Last Survivors do a cover of The Insane Dead and Gone, which is definitely a great song. And I got this when Vaccine opened up for the Skeptics, which I saw, I guess that was in May, that show was, but I picked this up. They're great, they put on a great show. Definitely that 82 style that I love, so yeah, that's for 2025. All right, the next one, show 7-inch. That is a Record Store Day 7-inch or something collectible. I don't think I have any Record Store Day 7-inches, so we're kind of going to go back into a little bit of street punk here. And this again is going to be a little preview for one of my videos I have coming up. But this is the Virus picture disc, and these were limited to 1,000. And I really don't like picture discs, but this is the only way that this was released other than the singles and rarity CD. And there's some cool pictures on there. But again, you know, these guys were, you know, this was from 2001, I think this came out, but you know, like Appendix, Defects, Sham 69, English Dogs, like this was the stuff that when you got this, you were just, you know, Slaughter and the Dogs, you know, you were just the Threats, you're just Angelic Upstarts, you're perusing every picture on this to find out, like, what were these guys listening to? What other records do I need to try to find? You know, and they nailed the look of the 80s punks. They nailed, you know, they really took that sound and that style to heart. And that's really what they were channeling at this time. Without it feeling like hokey. like they weren't singing about Maggie Thatcher and the Dole. You know, they were singing about modern at that time American politics. Like they weren't trying to be British. They were just taking that style and like adapting it to what they were doing. And that's one of the reasons why I think street punk I still like a lot of it. And yeah, so this punkcore stuff is really starting to become collectible, and I'm pretty lucky that I bought the majority of this stuff back when nobody cared about it. You know, this is like, I don't know, approaching $100 for this now. This is like probably 75 bucks. I don't know, 50 bucks for one of these. But yeah, so that is a collectible. I mean, technically all records are collectible, right? Okay, next one. Show a 7-inch that is not a 45. And here we go. We'll do another street punk one. This is a 4-way split between Poxy, Contaminated, Endless Struggle, and Classic Assholes. So these guys were from Seattle, Portland, Seattle, something like that. And then these two bands are from Salt Lake City. And this is a really cool street punk 7-inch. The Poxy song and the Contaminated song are really Defiance, like that mid-paced UK82 sound. And then Classic Assholes and Endless Struggle, I'd say, are like a little more speedy, kind of hardcore. But this plays on 33. Actually, a lot of the street punk era 7-inches are actually on 33. I think because it's probably cheaper. And it's probably tough to find places to actually print records at that time too. So, all right. Next one is Show a Northern Soul R&B Funk Disco. And like I said, I don't really collect 7-inches. I have some Northern Soul, Motown records, R&B records, but they're all LPs. Just because, like I said, I try to limit my 45s to only punk. But this record I actually got a couple weeks ago from my buddy Cliff. And this is an obscure Philadelphia soul record. It's actually by another guy named Cliff. That's not the Cliff that gave it to me, but that's my buddy Cliff gave me this. And it's got the song Love Is Alright on the A side, and then the B side is the same. It's called The Horse, but it's the same song. It's just without vocals, and it's a little beat up, but I still have to clean this and put it in a new sleeve and everything. But it's pretty good as far as Northern Soul goes. Or like, I don't know if this is technically Northern Soul, but as far as like Motown type soul style goes, this is pretty good, and it's pretty obscure too. I never heard of it before he gave this to me. So shout out to other Cliff who gave me Cliff Nobles. All right, next one. Show a record from a country you've never lived in. So if the other ones weren't enough, because most of the stuff I show is British and I've never lived in England. But here's one. I think these guys are Swedish. Asocial. Det Bidda Snutet. This is actually a bootleg. I was going to put this in the bootleg one, but I actually found a different one for that. Oh wait, I lied. I'll show both of these at the same time. This is the one I chose for the bootleg, which is the last question. Show a bootleg counterfeit record. A record from a country you've never lived. I picked this. This is Subversion. They're like a D-beat kind of, well, not D-beat, but Discharge style band, but it's from the early 80s. This is from Belgium, 1983. This was originally released, and it comes with this little booklet with like the history of the band and, you know, just little pictures and stuff. So this is pretty cool. These are like copies of fanzine interviews from them from back in the day. And this is definitely like a Varukers style Discharge, you know, kind of like Discharge copy band, which would be today called D-beat, but at the time they were just influenced by Discharge and kind of had that sound, which to me makes a difference. I don't really care for D-beat in terms of modern bands trying to copy Discharge. I like these kind of bands that are older and they just were naturally influenced by Discharge and kind of did their own thing with it without trying to be like a one-to-one copy of Discharge. So then, yeah, this is the one I picked for the bootleg. That's just the bootleg of their first 7-inch. So yeah, that is the end of this video. And hopefully I will get to making more videos, like I said, it's just been a lot of, it takes a long time to make and edit those videos as I've been making them before. These are much easier to do, and I think I'm going to try to stick with these more going forward. But all right, thanks for watching, and we'll see what happens going forward.